Attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone, and welcome to QQ Solutions webinar. Today we're going to look at how to set up and process your direct bill commission statements. We're also going to look at how to view each individual statement. Lastly, we'll look at how to reconcile your agency and producer commissions. Before we begin, if you're new to our webinars, on the right-hand side of your panel, you should be able to see a webinar panel. Now within that panel, there's a section where you can type in any questions you may have during the course of this webinar. We do have our product support specialist, Sophia Sweetland, that is standing by to answer your questions. So with that said, let's go ahead and begin our presentation. Now, the first thing that we need to do when we want to set up our direct bill commission statements is determine which carriers are actually certified to download this information with QQ Download. In order to do that, you will need to go to our website, which is qqsolutions.com. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the website, you'll see there's an option for real-time inquiry sign-up. Click on that and you'll be taken to a second page. On the left-hand side, you have an option for QQ Download in blue. Click on that and you'll have an area in the middle of the page, sort of at the bottom, where you can view all the supported carriers that download their information into QQ Downloads. Now, some of the carriers, you'll notice, will have an asterisk at the end of their name. For example, auto owners here that I'm pointing out. This particular carrier has an asterisk at the end of the name. And this indicates that this carrier is certified to download their direct bill commission statements with QQ Download. If the carrier does not have an asterisk next to it, then they are not certified to download their direct bill commission statements into QQ Download. And we do not recommend that you attempt to download their information. You may encounter errors that we do not support and cannot address until they are certified. So make sure that when you are doing this, that you have that you come to this section and determine which carriers that you currently write with are certified to process this information. Once you've done that, you can go to your QQ Evolution dashboard and access your utilities section from your dashboard on the left-hand side. Once you do that, what you'll need to do is select the insurance company option. And once we access that information, I'll show you exactly where that is. So you select insurance company here, and you will scroll down and find the carriers that are certified to download their direct bill commission statements. Once you've done that and you double click on their name, what you'll need to do is just simply click on the download commission box that's located on the upper right hand side of that box. And that is all that is required for you to do to enable direct bill commission statements transactions to process within QQ Downloads. Now, if you, at this point, if you have not set up your commission defaults for this particular company, I would suggest that you go ahead and do that. You would just select the line of business that you particularly write with this insurance carrier. The coverage type, so if there are specific coverage types, they're assigned to different commission percentages. You can do that. You can set them up separately, or if it's the same percentage across the board, you can go ahead and set that information up directly there just by clicking on all. Your premium sent, this is where you're going to indicate how your commissions are paid, whether it's net, which means that your commissions are kept by your agency before you send on the premium to the insurance carrier. Gross means that you get a monthly check from the insurance company in one payment for that total commission. And monthly means that your commissions are paid to you by the insurance carrier as earned, so they're paid on a monthly basis. So once you've indicated that information, you can move on the lower right-hand side to enter the percentage that you receive. Now, the first line that we view is new commissions. The second line is for renewal commissions. So if the two percentages are different, you can account for that by editing that information. You can simply enter and edit whatever information that needs to be edited. So let's say this is 7%, we'll just put that. Now my next step, if I wanted to, I can set up a default for any policy fees that this particular insurance carrier automatically adds to the policy once it's assigned. So if there are specific policy fees that the insurance carrier adds, and it's a standard fee, which means it doesn't change depending on the policy type, then you can go ahead and add it in this section. Once you're done, just simply click on OK to save your changes. So we've completed that task. Our next step is to go into your carrier downloads and set up how exactly you want to receive this information. So to do that, we're going to go back to our QQ Evolution dashboard, and we're going to access carrier downloads, of course, on the left-hand side. Once you click on that, I have it opened right now, you'll see this box appears. Now you're going to click on Setup. And the first area that we're going to look at is data import. Now this is where you're going to select how your data is going to be received and processed. So if you look at sort of in the middle of the page, you have a direct bill commission statement. And here's where you're going to select how the commission statements will be processed. So print and apply payments means that this will take each individual transaction listed within the direct bill commission statement for each carrier that you enable for processing. It'll also place the paper statement in the miscellaneous print section. So what this basically does is it takes those statements that get downloaded, applies whatever information is on there, and then puts a copy of that statement in miscellaneous print. Now if you select print only, this means that the statement itself will be downloaded, but it'll only be placed in miscellaneous print. Nothing will be processed. That means you'll have to go into miscellaneous print, highlight the statement that you want, and print it out. And then you will need to reconcile each document that's in that statement. Your next step is to determine how you want the information on that statement to be processed. If you choose automatic, this will take each and every statement that you have and match it to information that's within QQ Evolution automatically. Manual is a true manual mode, which means that each statement will be placed, or each transaction that's on the statement will be placed in the unsuccessfuls for you to view and process manually. So whereas automatic will just take that information and just process it automatically for you, manual will stop each transaction whether there is a client that is matched to that information or not. It will store it in unsuccessful until you go in there and actually process that information. Once you've selected your options, you can go ahead and click on OK to save your changes. Okay, at this point we are going to take a few seconds, and I have a couple of poll questions that I'd like to ask you to complete. The first one is, where do you enable direct bill processing, direct bill commission statement processing? You have A for utilities, B, QQ Solutions website, or do you contact a product support technician? Go ahead and put in your answer for me, please. Okay, so the majority of you chose the correct one, which is A, utilities. In order to enable direct bill commission statements to process, you do need to go into utilities, insurance companies, and check that download commission box that's located on the upper right-hand side. Our next question, let's close that. Our next question is, in direct bill commission statement actions, if you want to process each individual transaction listed, what do you do? Do you print only, print and apply payments, or ask me later? Go ahead and put in your answer. Okay, I see we're kind of confused about that. Half of you chose the correct one, which is print and apply payments, and the other half just chose print only. Print only actually will just put that in that statement in miscellaneous transaction, whereas print and apply will actually download that statement, apply the transactions, and then put a copy of it in miscellaneous print for you to view at a later time. And if you need to print it, you could always go in and print it at a later time. All right, you guys did a great job. Thank you. Okay, so moving on. Let's go ahead and the next area that we're going to cover is how to collect or how to process that information. Now, if you have your setup enabled to automatically download that information at a specific time, then you'll be receiving that information just like you would your other download information. Now, if you come in and manually do that every morning, then what you would need to do is the same process. Go to Transactions and click on it. You have two options. The first one is Download and Process Transactions through IVANS, and what that does is it allows you to download and process all these transactions from insurance carriers that actually use IVANS to process their information. Now, the second option, which is Process Pending Transactions, what that does is it will do the same thing, but for carriers that specifically use their own downloading program to download their information into QQ Downloads. Now, if either one is not highlighted for you to select, that means that there is no transactions for you to receive. Okay. Once you've done that, any transactions that have failed, or if you have your setup selected to receive your information and process your information manually, you will see that you will have certain features here, certain transactions that will need your specific attention. Now, some scenarios that you may encounter in that is one, for example, that's probably not listed here, is previous transaction pending. And when this message appears, it means that there's multiple transactions that have been set in the same statement for a particular customer. And when that happens, you will need to process those transactions in a specific order. For example, if you're receiving, let's say, a cancellation and an endorsement for a customer on the same statement, you'll need to process the endorsement first and then process the cancellation. You can't process the cancellation before the endorsement. What I would suggest in that case, when you see something like that, a message like that, previous transaction pending, is just click on the client name column, and this will put your transactions in order, in alphabetical order by name, so that you'll be able to group all the transactions that have been sent for one customer exactly all together, so you can see which ones need to be processed. Other transactions that you may receive, or other messages that you may receive, are something similar like this, client not found. Now, in this case, if you receive this transaction or this message, you have two options. You can either, I'm not quite sure, oh, there it goes, here we go. You have two options. If you know that the customer is in your database, but for whatever reason it cannot be matched, you can either choose to locate it manually. If you know that this is a brand new customer, you can also create the new customer directly from the information that's being processed through the downloads. If the customer has been found but not entirely matched and you know that it's the same client, you can go ahead and select is the same client. Once you do that, it'll process the information. Now, if you need to add further information, like maybe there's something mismatched in the policy, it will also give you that option to either create a new policy, select is the same policy, so that you can move forward with that information. So here is that information. So my transaction here at the bottom tells me that the policy number is not listed, so that's why it couldn't be matched. Everything else is in green except for the policy number. So what I'm going to do is say is the same policy and click on finish, so that transaction can be processed. Now we do have another message that I do want to show you, which is NAIC code unassigned. And this happens when you may have the company within your utility section. You have the company listed but not the NAIC code listed. In this case, you have the option, or you have the option to add the NAIC code and the insurance company directly from your carrier downloads. Now, if I needed to view my list of companies that I have currently in utilities, I can look at it on the lower right-hand side. I can scroll down and see if I have First Floridian. It doesn't look like I do. If I did, I can just highlight it, and I can choose the Select Correct Company option below. Once I do that, it would process any transaction that's attached to that NAIC code. Now, since I do not have this particular carrier and NAIC code listed, I'm going to go ahead and add that. I'm going to click on Create New Company. Now I'm going to add the name. And I can also abbreviate this. And I can add, if I'm using a comparative rater, and this company is one of the companies that I use within that rater, I can go ahead and add that information, or add that 3-letter or 3-digit code that maybe that rater requires directly here at this time. And then I can add also my NAIC code. Once I'm done doing that, I can click on Add to List, and there I can scroll down now, and there is my company. Now this again is a company that is certified to download their commission statements. Then I am going to go ahead and click on that box, and if I have my since this is a new company, I can also go ahead and just set up the commission defaults for my agency directly here at one time. Once I click on OK and I go back to my carrier downloads, what I want to do is select Reprocess All Unsuccessful Transactions. What that will do is take any policy or any transaction that's in unsuccessful that's attached to that particular NAIC code, and it's going to process it automatically. Once it's done, you'll notice that if there were, depending on the number of transactions, your transaction ticker here will be a lot less. Okay, and then I can go on to the next record. Now, once I'm done with all of my transactions, my miscellaneous print is where I am going to see any information or any statements that have been downloaded and stored, processed or not. It'll be listed here. Now if I come to this section, for example, and I notice that there's a statement in here from a carrier that does is certified to download their direct bill commission statements, but for whatever reason it didn't process that information. That's probably because that box in the utility section has not been checked. So what I would do is at that point is go into utilities, check to make sure that that box is checked, and then come back to the miscellaneous print section. You can highlight that statement and then click on transaction, and you can reprocess direct bill commission transaction. That means it'll take that statement that you have highlighted and it's going to process that information automatically for you that's in that statement. Now this particular this particular process that you're going to be doing, you only want to do that if all of the transactions listed on that statement have not been processed. If you have transactions that have been processed within that statement, you don't want to reprocess the whole thing, because what it'll do is will create duplicates that may create problems within the client's database. So just make sure that when you select this option, it's because you want to reprocess the whole statement because it's never been processed before. Okay? So with that said, we're going to have time for one poll question. So let's go to number 3, and it says here, where do I view the individual statements? Is that in Unsuccessfuls? Once the statements have been processed, you can't view them? Or is it in Miscellaneous Print? Go ahead and put in your answer. Okay, great. You guys did really good. Yep, everybody, the majority of people chose C, which is Miscellaneous Print. That is correct. Whenever you need to view a statement that's been processed or not, it's going to be in Miscellaneous Print. Excellent. Okay, so at this point, once your statements have been processed and you view them or you print out your statements, now you're ready to reconcile those statements that cannot be processed because the carriers are not certified. In that case, we are going to go into we're going to go back to our QQ Evolution dashboard, and we're going to access reports. Now there are 2 reports within QQ Evolution that are really important to reconciliation. The first one is commission reconciliation, and the second one is producer reconciliation. So once you click on reports, what we're going to do is look under reconciliation area here. And our commission reconciliation section is the first one that we're going to look at. And this is where you're going to reconcile the agency commissions. Now, once you click on that option, you'll come to our first screen. Now, this will allow you, this screen is actually kind of a new option that we have in QQ Evolution 2. And this will allow you to save and track open reconciliations. You can modify any reconciliations that are still considered to be open directly here in this section. So if, let's say, you're in the middle of a reconciliation report and you get interrupted, you can actually save your work now and come back to it at a later time. You can also view closed reconciliations that have been done. You cannot modify those records in this section, but you can view them. Now, to create a new reconciliation, you will need to click on Create New Reconciliation, and this will take you to the next section where you're going to search for any records that need to be reconciled. Now, as far as those direct bill commission statements that have been processed, those are not going to be in any of your unpaid or opened reconciliations because those will automatically reconcile themselves. To view any unpaid reconciliations, what you would do is select your date criterias first. What effective dates are you going to search by? So if we wanted to search, let's say, for the month of, let's say, last month, we can go ahead and choose that. We can choose the month of July. Actually, it's this month. But we can also choose which agency we want to reconcile for, whether it's all of our agencies, if you have multiple offices, or one particular. You can also select a specific MGA or broker that you want to reconcile for, or a specific insurance company. Now, if you click on the drop-down arrow here, this will allow you to choose either all of the companies to reconcile at one time or one in particular. If you click on the box on the left-hand side, when it's highlighted in blue, you are able to reconcile and choose up to 5 insurance companies. Now, it'll allow you to actually highlight more than 5, but you'll only actually be able to pull 5 companies at one time that you can reconcile. Once you've done that, your next step is to select what you want to see. Do you want to see your unpaid commissions? Do you want to see only your paid commissions, or everything together? Now, you can also do a search and reconcile by specific insured name. So if you have a specific customer that you're looking for, you can type in their name on the upper right-hand side, and you can also search by a specific policy number. Once you're done selecting these criterias, you can click on Search, and it goes out and it collects any information based on your criterias here. So we have a couple of records here that we can reconcile. So if I wanted to reconcile, let's say, the first record, it's going to tell me on the left-hand side what the policy number is, the insured's name, the company, the effective date of the policy, and the policy type. So I have, under this column, I have P for policy, P/E, which means that I'm reconciling for an endorsement. This is a package. Actually, this is a package policy cancellation, because once you see the C at the end with a date next to it, that's cancellation. And of course, the PKG is also means that you're reconciling on a package policy. Okay, to reconcile a specific amount, let's say I wanted to reconcile the entire commission due, that's the last column on the right-hand side, I can go ahead and either double-click on this line item or click on the arrow down. Now, once I have my payment box that appears, I have pretty much the information that I need. I have my total commission that is due. I have an option to put in what is being paid on that statement to my agency. So if the entire amount is being paid at one time, that's exactly what I'm going to enter. Whoops, did I do that right? Yes. Okay, so that's what I'm going to enter. I'm going to enter the entire amount. However, if we come back to this statement, let's see, let's go to package policy, and we want to reconcile this amount, but only a portion of this payment is actually being paid. I can go ahead and enter only the portion that is being paid to my agency. If you notice, it'll tell me the total amount that's due. I'm entering what's being paid on that statement, and then it subtracts that and leaves a balance of whatever is left over that the insurance carrier still owes my agency. And I can click on OK. So once I'm done doing that, I can choose my payment date. What date is on that statement that was paid to that was sent to my agency? So if I needed to change that date, I can do that. I can select a payment type. So if this was paid to my agency by way of check to agency, I can select that. And I can put in additional notes also if needed pertaining to this statement. Once you do that, on the lower right-hand side, it'll tell you the number of payments that are being reconciled and the total amount that's being reconciled. So my next step is to choose to either apply all payments, which will take that information that's stored in the reconciliation area and apply it to the customer's account and reconcile that information. And that's all it'll do. There will be nothing else there. Apply and print, which is the option right next to it, what that does is pretty much just take this information, apply it, and then it allows you to print out a report or export that information into Excel. So if I choose that option, again, it just confirms the total amount that's being reconciled. It gives me an option to put in any additional notes that I need to for this, or I can just simply click on OK to bypass that. And once it's done, it'll show me a copy of that report. And at that point, I have the option to either select to print it as a report, and this is the reconciliation report right now, or I can export this information to an Excel spreadsheet. Once I'm done doing that, I can click on Return. And now if I needed to start a new reconciliation, I can do that. I can go in and start a new reconciliation for maybe a new company or a specific customer. Once you're done reconciling that information on the agency side, then you are ready to reconcile on the producer side. So we're going to select Producer Reconciliation, and we're going to click on Open. Now, just like with commission reconciliation, that you're able to reconcile on the agency side, producer reconciliation allows you to reconcile on the producer side. The only difference is you have to reconcile on the agency side first in order to reconcile on the producer, because you can't pay the producer before reconciling the agency information. And just like with commission reconciliation, we have a screen where if you have any pending transactions that need to be reconciled, you'll be able to view them in this section. If not, you can just select Create New Reconciliation, and this is where I'm going to start reconciling or pulling my information that needs to be reconciled. So if I need to reconcile by specific effective dates, let's say I want to reconcile for any policy for a specific producer for the month of July, I can choose to click on this box on the upper left-hand side to use effective dates. Otherwise, if I leave that unchecked, all I need to do is select my producer that I'm reconciling for, or I have the option of, let's say, reconciling for everyone. I can choose also, just like before, to see only unpaid, my paid commissions, or everything together, or I can do a search by specific insured name or policy number. Once I'm done, I can click on Search, and that information will automatically pull up. So depending on the criteria that I've chosen, it's going to go into my database and search on the producer side for anything that needs to be reconciled. So right now I left this to see only unpaid. So these are the ones that are coming up that need to be reconciled. They need my attention. And just like before, we have our policy number, our insured name, our company. Now we have the producer's name listed here. We also have the effective dates of the policy. Now remember, I did not choose to search by effective date, so it's pulling everything that's still listed as unpaid. And my policy types are listed here also as the commission information. So it's telling me here that on this column to the right here, due now, it's telling me that the amount of commission that is due now. So if you're reconciling, let's say, the entire commission at one time, then the producer is going to have the entire amount given to them also. But if you're only reconciling on the agency side a portion of that agency commission that's due, then only a portion of the producer commission will be available to be reconciled. Once you have selected the item to reconcile, you can either double-click on the line item and enter the amount that's being reconciled. So let's say in this case we're only going to reconcile maybe $25 worth. So again, it's going to leave me a balance that I still owe this particular producer to. Okay. Now if I wanted to select another document or another record to reconcile, I can do the same thing, except I can either manually type in the total amount that I'm giving this producer if I'm paying the entire amount, or I can simply check the box on the left-hand side and it automatically pre-fills that information for me. So if you notice now we have that. So in the next document or the next record, I can do the same and it automatically pre-fills that information. Now again, at the bottom I can indicate the payment date, the payment type, and I can add a description. And then it also gives me, just like before, the total number of records that are being reconciled on this report, and also the total amount that is being reconciled. So once I'm done and I've completed this, I have the option to either apply all payments or apply and print. And just like before, if I choose to apply and print, I have the option to add an additional note. And then I also have the option to either print a report out for this particular producer or maybe for my own records, but I can also export this report to Excel. And there is my report there. So it gives me my policy information, it gives everything here, it gives me my producer and things like that. Once I'm done, I can either print this or export this and then click on return. Now if I needed to go back into that report, and let's say we need to use effective dates now, we're going to look at anything for last month, or we can choose all dates, and let's say we choose a different producer, and now we're ready to reconcile. So this gives me all the commissions unpaid for this particular producer that I've selected. So I can go in, take a look at this, reconcile if needed. If I need to pen this or save and come back to it at a later time, I can also do that by clicking on Save and Reconcile for later. I can add a note here pertaining to why I'm saving this or what needs to be done. And there is my record. So now when I come into my producer reconciliation area or report, this is the first thing I'm going to see. I'm going to see that I have this record pending, waiting for me just to finish. It gives me the status on the right-hand side. It tells me that this is still an open account. So what I can do if I wanted to reconcile, I can either double-click on that, and it takes me right back into this section where I can finish reconciling my information. Okay, so with that said, we have one more poll question that we can look at. Okay, and this is pertaining this new screen that we just looked at to view individual statements. What is this for? Can you view statements that have been pending, closed? Can you change closed? Go ahead and answer questions. Okay, and the majority of you did choose correctly. It's all of the above. The new screen allows you to save, track, modify, and also view closed reconciliations. Very good. Thank you all. This concludes pretty much our webinar for today. I thank you all for attending. I am going to leave the webinar panel still open for any additional questions that you may have, so feel free to type in your questions. Sophia and I will do our best to answer them. I thank you all for attending and have a great day.